Okay everyone, today I'm going to be seeing if telekinesis is real using my Egely Disk Vitality indicator. So I was made aware of this device through somebody on Twitter. They contacted me and showed me a YouTube video where somebody was trying to debunk this, and they weren't able to debunk it in their YouTube video. So I wanted to take a shot at it and see how it might be working and if telekinesis is really possible. Is that the reason why this wheel is turning? Now, first of all, this was not cheap. I could only get it from one place and it was $50. All it is this very light piece of plastic on this aluminum base here. It just sits on there and balances in a very low friction environment. Okay, so these are the instructions that come with it. All it says is you open it, put your hand around it, and the wheel should start spinning depending on how your hand is shaped around it. And apparently how fast it's spinning is a measure of your chi or your vitality in you. Okay, let's try it out and see if it's working. Whoa. Almost immediately it starts turning when I put my hand around it. Try my other one. And it goes the other way. Whoa, this is weird. Other hand. And it turns around. Okay, a little creepy. Goes a lot faster on my right hand than my left hand, it looks like. Whoa, look at it switch like that. Okay, so what is going on here? Okay, first let's just test out if I put a glove on if the same thing happens. Okay, here's the glove test. And it still turned the other direction. Okay, that's interesting. So you can see that it still may be related to the heat of my hand, but the glove didn't seem to stop it that much. Okay, glove test. And it's spinning. Switch. And it's going the other direction. So first, what I would guess what's going on with this is that it has something to do with airflow. Because this is a very low friction system. It's basically kind of the same system that's in a radiometer. It's basically just this system resting on the point of a pin. And so it's really low friction. You see that when you just kind of do anything by it, it can kind of spin it. Okay, now we're gonna try the fake hand experiment. So if this is telekinesis, a fake hand shouldn't be able to move it, right? So let's see if the fake hand can turn it. Start turning it this direction. Put the fake hand up. And is it turning? It's turning the opposite direction. So this is a little bit weird. The fake hand is able to do it also, but the fake hand doesn't really have body heat. It's just been sitting in my garage. It's about the same temperature as this table. So in case this has anything to do with airflow, let's see what happens when I put it in this beaker. So it barely fits around it. Okay, I'm gonna put my hand in. Okay, I don't see any movement whatsoever from it. I'm gonna try to touch it all the way up to the glass. So I've seen people do these in jars before and it looks like they were able to move it, but I'm definitely not able to move it when it's in here. Try with my other hand. Try my other hand just to be sure. Kind of moved on that one. Okay, so I was able to get it to move a little bit with my left hand. My right hand, I wasn't able to do it at all. So it definitely damps it when I put it in the jar here. So now let's try to vacuum out all of the air in the jar and see if I can get any movement whatsoever. Okay, now I have this in a closed jar. Let's see if it still works. Okay, I can get it to slightly turn with my right hand in this new jar. It's a little bit further away from my hand, so that might be why. But now let's vacuum the air out and see if I can get it to turn. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just taken my vacuum pump from the Action Lab vacuum chamber box and I've applied it to this container here because I needed one a little bit wider to fit it in. So now let's pump out the air. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're at half an atmosphere now. I'm afraid my bottle's gonna break. Okay, we got a pretty good vacuum in there now. Now let's see if we can turn it. Okay, so you can see without me touching it at all, it's still kind of spinning by itself in there. Okay, not spinning. I'm gonna try to put it right up against the glass or right up against the plastic. Oh! I knew if I went a little more it would break. Okay, so what's going on? How is this really working? And why did it work with my gloves? Well, my guess is that it all has to do with airflow. You'll notice because this is such a low friction device, very small air currents can turn it. In fact, if the air current is too strong, it doesn't turn it. For example, watch what happens when I try to blow right by it. So I'm blowing fast as I can and it's barely turning, so it seems to be not even affected by really high airflow. But watch what happens if I barely breathe by it. So I just exhaled as slow as I could, and that turned it better than just flowing air out of my mouth as fast as I could. So this turns the best by very small air currents, because if you blow too strong, it makes it off balance and it creates more friction so it doesn't turn as well. So all of these vanes here, they help to catch any air that's moving tangential to the wheel. So notice how easy it works right when I put my hand up to it. That's because just moving my hand close to it created an air current that was moving this way. So it's pushing the wheel this way. And then once you even just have your hand there, now your hand is slightly warm. And so your hand pulls up the warm air like this, and the cool air goes in from the side. And because your hand is slightly curved, it pushes it around this way at a tangent to the wheel. Another thing that can really add to it, but doesn't necessarily have to be there, is your own breathing. So I've noticed that it works the best at the edge of a table right in front of you. If it's not right in front of you, it doesn't seem to work as well. That's because I think when you put out your hand like this, it's helping shape the form of air you're breathing out of your mouth. It helps to shape that flow to go forward. So when I'm just right here and I barely breathe out, you can see how I can turn it. And if I have this hand up and I breathe out, then it turns it the other way. So you can see just by shaping the direction that the air is going, it turns it different ways. The biggest movement is right when you put your hands up, because it's that initial airflow of you moving your hand over it. See how it immediately does it when you put your hands up? But if you go about it much slower and come down from above, then it doesn't do it as much. It takes a while. So how was it working in a container like this? Now, it was much harder to get it to work in the container, but it's still possible to be able to work in a closed off container like this. That's because your hand is on the other side of the jar, and so the outside air currents are not affecting it, but you can still create small air currents within the jar because your hand is warm and it's heating up the glass or the jar on this side where your hand is more, and so that slightly heats up the air on this side more, and so it can still create those micro air currents that can cause it to turn. And you'll notice it's much harder to get it to turn when it's a small container like this versus when it's a bigger one like this, because you can create bigger air currents when you have a bigger container. The reason that it seems so hard to debunk is because the way that it's working is by very, very small air currents. And so it's hard to get something that doesn't have small air currents. Even in the vacuum that I was able to create, I only got down to around 1/4 of an atmosphere, not a full vacuum. But even in something like that, you can still get enough air in there to cause a rotation in a very low friction device. So there's some combination of the way you're breathing, the way you're holding your body, how warm your hands are. All of those add together to indicate how much you can turn this wheel when you put your hand by it. Regardless of what people use this wheel for, it's actually pretty amazing how just a very small placement of a hand or something that's not really that warm can cause a movement that's so visible. In other videos, I've seen people try to debunk the airflow method by putting air packing peanuts, but there's no way the small current of air is going to move an air packing peanut. For example, let me show you. Okay, so you can see that I'm not even going to put my hands up, but I'm just going to breathe very slightly and get it to turn clockwise. So you can see that obviously I didn't even move these packing peanuts at all. Even though they're very light, it takes a good amount of wind to get them to move. But this can move very easily with the tiniest little air current that can't even move these little packing peanuts. Okay, there you go. The Egely wheel is debunked in the method that they're saying it works, through energy transmission. It's pretty obvious that it's through airflow. I don't like to completely discredit everything having to do with spirituality, because maybe it does have something to do with how calm you are and how slow you can calm your breathing. Because you'll notice that when I breathed really fast, I couldn't turn it with just my air. But if I was slow and calm and breathed slowly, it was able to turn. And if you're directing that airflow, it turns easily. And it may have something to do with the temperature of your hands and how fidgety you are. If you're fidgety and don't have patience, it won't turn as easily. So all of those measurements together may actually be a good indicator of your internal health. And so an Egely wheel to measure that maybe isn't completely useless. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another episode of the Action Lab. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the subscribe button and remember to hit the bell so that you can be notified when my latest video's out. And check out theactionlab.com to see the Action Lab subscription box. You can actually get a vacuum chamber similar to the one that I used in this experiment, except that it's a much stronger jar and it won't break under full vacuum, so you can pump it down to full vacuum, put cool stuff in it. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.